Jess Phillips, is one of the most charismatic MPs in Parliament. But her biggest problem in becoming Labour leader will be the hostility of many on the Labour left, which currently dominates the party membership. So, can she do it? Well, she is with me now. Welcome, Jess Phillips.
Thanks for
that
having
is
me.
the big question, isn't it, really? A poll, it's only a poll, but in a poll of Labour members, only 12% said that they would back you, much bigger numbers for some of your rivals. Can you move from your position to a position where you can actually win the Labour leadership?
Well, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that that was possible. I think that if we don't listen to what happened in the last general election, but the last 4 general elections, and really think about how we have got to try and make the Labour Party win power again.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. As you just see, Jess Phillips was on the Andrew Marr show earlier today, trying to promote herself as the next Labour leader, and if you listen to what she said during that clip, you will notice she claims Labour need to learn from the last election and those they lost before it. Well, it didn't take long for her to go back on that claim, because it would seem Jess Phillips, like the rest of the Labour Party, are incapable of learning anything. Within 7 minutes of making this claim you just heard, she admits if she was to become Prime Minister in 5 years, she would consider taking us back into the EU, even though it's been voted on multiple times now with the same outcome. We don't want to be in the EU. Naturally, Jess knows better than us, including her Leave voting constituency. So, should she win, us mere plebs won't have a say because she is the all-knowing walking vagina with a mouth, living in her own world. The interview itself was mainly complete dribble, but the few clips we are going to look at relating to Brexit show this idiot has learned nothing, just like Jeremy Corbyn and Sir Keir Starmer, who have tabled amendments to Boris Johnson's Brexit deal, demanding a 2-year delay if no deal is made by June 2020, that I covered the other day, and, as you know, has next to zero chance of getting through. So, let's see the first clip we have from the Andrew Marr show earlier.
Final big policy issue is if you become Labour leader, we might have been out of the EU then by about 3 years. Is the Labour Party then a return to the EU party, or do you accept that argument is over?
Look, Boris Johnson has a majority of 80. The Labour Party losing the election has consequences that we have to deal with. So I have to face the fact that as somebody who I have a Leave seat, but I campaigned for Remain because I thought it was the best thing for the people that I represent, and I thought it was the best thing for the country, and I'm not going to just change my mind on that.
The pause before her answering the question there tells me she knows her party would be the party of rejoin the EU, and that she does not think the fight is over, because as we have seen for the last 3 years, these shitweasels don't know when they have lost, or they just don't care. Either way, it makes them look like idiots, so I'm not complaining. But to go on and say I have a Leave seat but campaign for Remain because I think it's the best thing for the people I represent shows the arrogance of this bint, as I pointed out in my video yesterday. She knows better than the plebs who voted for her in her own constituency and the country at large. Her Remain feelings trump everything and will never change. Yet another reason she would never be elected as Prime Minister. Even though, as I said, she won't even win the Labour leadership race, let alone an election. It's Jo Swinson's fantasy politics to think anything different, given the makeup of the Labour Party's NEC and the membership. But anyway, let's carry on though, because it's Jess Phillips we are talking about here. She's not done yet.
But what we have to do is wait and see.
So you're a rejoiner now?
No, we have to wait and see the situation where we are. People can sit and pretend that they know what it's going to be, but that is just a lie. We have to wait and see. But I will always think that we are better off, we are safer. All this conversation about Iran
That's really interesting.
Today,
So if you're Labour leader in a few weeks' time, or a few months' time, the Labour Party policy could be that eventually you'd like to return to the EU.
You would have to look at what was going on at the time. If Boris Johnson, what our job is for the next 3 years is to hold Boris Johnson to account on all the promises. So if we are living in an absolute paradise of trade and we're totally safe in the world and we're not worrying about having to constantly look to America for our safety and security, then maybe we'll be wrong, maybe I'll be proven wrong. But the reality is if our country is safer, if it is more economically viable to be in the European Union, then I will fight for that, regardless of how difficult that argument is to make.
When Andrew Marr pushes her on being a rejoiner, she does not admit to it outright, but her wait and see comment is essentially a signal to the Ramonas out there that with her as leader, there is a way back into the European Union in 5 years should they win an election. Which of course they won't. But let me say, even if we was worst off because of Brexit, this woman is an idiot if you think we would be better off rejoining the European Union. Do you think we would get favourable terms, Jess, if we did try to rejoin? I mean, surely she does not think we would rejoin on the same terms that we're on now. Even Jess Phillips can't be that stupid. Rejoining would make us the literal concubines of the European Union, more so than the treasonous Maybot deal would have. The EU would milk us dry on piss poor terms and fuck pigs like Jess would happily let them do it. To even consider such a thing is beyond ridiculous, and yet another smack in the face to the voters of this country by a Labour politician who does not care what you voted for. Her opinions are worth more, and therefore your vote and voice means nothing. Like I said at the start of this video, Jess has literally learned nothing from the election demolition the people of this country gave Labour last month, and will continue to make the same mistakes time and time again. Which, as I'm sure you will all agree, is great news for the country. But remember, in Jess Phillips' world, you are only a stupid bunch of racist gammon that don't know what you voted for. Luckily for us, the saviour known as Jess Phillips is here to guide you down the right path she chooses, even if her own constituency or the country voted for something different. And she will not care if it will put us in a more dire situation than the worst possible Brexit imaginable. Because like I said, and is pretty obvious to anyone, rejoining the EU would not only be humiliating for the UK as a nation, it would make us by far worse off than any other outcome I can think of. The EU would bend us over and go in dry when it came to the conditions of us rejoining. The concubine of the EU would be our name from then on. And by the sounds of it, Jess Phillips would be happy with that. Naturally, the internet exploded at Jess Phillips for her ridiculous comments, and rightly so. I'm not going to bother going over the articles talking about what was said by the majority of the country in response to Jess Phillips here. It's pretty obvious how they feel. I'm sure we all feel the same. But on that note, guys, I will end the video there. Before I go though, I want to thank our PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar and YouTube members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe with a notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I will see you all in the next one.
And Corbyn neutral by Christmas.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.
Ramon! Ramon!